will AI ever be sentient? And if yes, then what is your belief on when it is possible? And on top of that, can I also ask you, will it be dangerous for humans?
Sentient is of course sort of what Marvin Minsky called a suitcase word. You know, it has quite a lot of meanings, explicit and implicit meanings. So let me try and unpack the suitcase a little bit and start with something that I think is less controversial and easier to understand, and that is self-awareness. So will an AI be self-aware? And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, it has to be intelligent. And the reason for that is to act intelligently in the world, you have to have a concept of yourself as an acting agent. The computer has to know what it created or what it caused in the world versus what other people caused in the world. It also needs to ultimately be aware of its own thought processes, you know, of its own cognitive processes in order to know when it's confused or when it's clear or when it's certain, you know, and so on. So there has to be self-awareness. It's part and parcel of intelligence. You cannot have a truly intelligent system that isn't self. So yeah, absolutely, you have to have self-awareness as part of intelligence. The sort of the fuzzier part that people talk about is, you know, the whole thing sort of to do with qualia and so on, and how what will it feel like to be a robot and so on. And I think it's sort of a totally unnecessary philosophical quagmire that people get into. I don't really have sort of time to go into it, and I don't think I would convince anybody who strongly believes that qualia are something separate and, you know, important. So obviously for a machine, for a robot, whether it's a computer that's running in a data center or whether it's a robot with a brain, with a computer brain, of course they will not experience the world the way we do. Because, you know, we have a biological body, we have a heartbeat, you know, we have all sorts of different emotional triggers, you know, bodily triggers that affect how we perceive things. You know, even though we start sweating or our heart rate goes up or, you know, our stomach knots up or something like that. I mean, you could simulate these things in a computer, but why would you? You know, exactly. So the experience of thought and experiencing the world will, of course, be very, very different from a human. But there has to be self-awareness. Now, the other question is, will it be dangerous? Yes, that is a big topic. So, I think most of the researchers right now, and there are quite a number of organizations that you know get funding and work on sort of safe AI or AI safety, I think are totally misled. The main focus these days seems to be on what they call the alignment problem. So that you basically program a computer with a certain super goal, and if you don't get that super goal right, then you know it can go haywire. And of course the classic example there is the paperclip optimizer. And again, you know, it's obviously a lot of smart people have thought a lot about this and written books and so on. I'm not going to convince everybody of this point of view. I think the simple way to look at it is to say, okay, let's take the paperclip maximizer, but it could be anything that's, you know, to achieve an objective. So on the one hand, we are claiming that this paperclip optimizer is smart enough to outsmart all the humans in the world and all other computers and basically paper over the universe with paperclips, you know, or convert the universe into paperclips. So it's smart enough to do that, to outfox everybody. It has, you know, it can think about everything, it can solve every problem, can come up against, you know, all the defenses you can put up for it. But it's not smart enough to have asked the question, okay, how many paperclips do you actually want? And what do you want the paperclips for? It makes no sense at all. You know, so any AI that is smart enough to be a danger to us and against smart defenses, you know, obviously you can have, you know, stupid technology go haywire and cause a lot of damage. I mean, but then it's a lack of intelligence that's causing the problem. And that's a very important point. It's a lack of intelligence that's causing the problem. I mean,
Right.
you know, right now when AIs do something bad, why is that? Because they're not intelligent enough. They're not intelligent to understand the consequences of their actions, or to really understand what the objective is and the context of the objective. You know, why do we want paper clips? You know, or you know, if it was some better objective, why do we want to? You know, I mean, like silly examples like stopping world hunger. Okay, well, if we kill everyone, then we stop world hunger. Nobody will be hungry. Those kind of examples. I mean, it's absurd. You know, any
Yes.
AI smart enough to solve the problem of hunger will understand we don't want to solve it by killing everyone. We want to solve it by, you know, solving hunger is only part of a bigger problem we're trying to solve, of optimizing people's lives, you know, of letting people flourish. So, and then, so if your AI understands, okay, I should help you to get more people to flourish, to have flourishing lives, then, okay, what does flourishing entail? You know, flourishing entails, well, not being hungry, you know, and having good relationships and having clean air and, you know, stuff like that. So it really makes no sense to, and again, the reason for that is that you have mathematicians and statisticians who can basically only see this problem as there's some optimizing function that we have. And if that optimizing function is written incorrectly, no, there isn't a single optimizing function. You know, it's a complex goal exploration and goal understanding system that an AGI needs to have, that it needs to be able to learn, first of all, what it's supposed to do. You know, it needs to, I mean, like a human. If you want somebody to do a big job, the first thing is to understand what the job entails and why you're trying to do it, you know, and what the consequences are. So I think the alignment problem is a complete waste of time. And yet that's where most of the energy goes. So I don't see that as the big danger of AI at all. Now, AI, AGI, you know, human level AI will, of course, you know, be able to do pretty much every job that humans do. Now, you can look at that as a terrible thing if nobody has work anymore, but you could also flip that around and say, doesn't everybody want to win the lottery? I mean,
That's
you know,
right.
pretty much everyone, most people, when you ask them, hey, do you want to win the lottery? Oh, yeah, great. Then I could do what I really want to do. Now, having AGI, you know, do work human labor at a much lower cost, basically, you know, too cheap to meter, means that it's like everybody winning the lottery. We won't have to work anymore. We'll be able to do the things we want to do. Now, will that be a difficult psychological adjustment for many people? Yes, absolutely. But again, AI can help us with that. You know, for a lot of us, the work we do is very much part of who we are, and our happiness in life, you know, is tied up with the work we do. But for a lot of people, it isn't. You know, they'd be very happy to be able to retire and you know, not work.
Do no work.
Yeah. So, and then of course there's the other perspective on, will AI be good or bad for us? I think there's a very strong argument to be made that we actually need AGI to save ourselves from ourselves. That, you know, humanity seems to be struggling with its, you know, it seems to have tremendous growing pains right now in terms of, you know, obviously climate change or global warming is a problem, pollution. But even more importantly, I think governance is a huge problem. Yeah. You know, we don't really seem to have figured out who to put in charge and what authority they should have, and you know, and things like that. So I think AI can help us significantly to think these things through properly.